What's going on, YIMBYs for Harris? Is Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. And housing is a top priority for Maryland because for too many people, our seniors and our educators and young families, they're being priced out. And so that's why, in the last year, we've introduced and passed the boldest housing package of any Maryland administration in recent history. Expanding affordable housing construction, removing unnecessary zoning barriers, strengthening renters' rights, and finding new ways to fund more homes. And that's just a start. And I fully support Vice President Harris's plan to build millions of new homes around the country and get first-time home buyers down payment assistance so they can buy a home and build wealth. And the stakes are clear. This election will determine if housing will become affordable for working families or if we've been left with more broken promises of the past. Your phone banking efforts today are crucial. And so when you pick up the phone, you're making a difference, both in this election and in someone's life. You're reaching people who care about their communities, their families, and their futures. And every call you log is a step toward ensuring that we elect a leader who will fight for affordable housing and make real progress on housing equity. This is our time, and this is your moment. So let's put it all out there, and let's go win.
Hey folks, welcome to YIMBYs for Harris Live. My name is Steve Boyle. I'm so excited that you have joined us today. Here's what we're going to do tonight. In a moment, I'm going to introduce a few special guests from the YIMBYs for Harris team and great YIMBY personalities from around the country. We're going to hang out with you tonight. We're going to chat with you. We're going to feature some all-new interviews from a few elected officials, including Maryland Governor Wes Moore, Colorado Governor Jared Polis, California United States Congresswoman Barbara Lee, U.S. Senator from Hawaii Brian Schatz, and former Obama speechwriter and Pod Save America co-host John Lovett. And then we're going to invite Sophie Kuntz from the Kamala Harris for President campaign to join us for some phone banking training, and we're going to hit the phones. So with that, I'm going to welcome a few folks to the stage who will then introduce themselves. So let me click a few buttons, add some of our amazing guests, welcome them to this event, and thanks everybody for being with us today. And if you could unmute yourselves, and maybe I would love for you to tell us just a little bit about who you are and how you became a YIMBY. And maybe we can kick off with Jeremiah.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you to everybody here, especially Armand and Nia, who founded this, YIMBYs for Harris organization. I am the founder of the Center for New Liberalism. We are a democratic organizing group with chapters in 60 or 70 cities at this point around the country. And our members engage in local politics, show up to city council meetings, advocate for more housing. And we are not a purely housing group. We have a lot of views. We are all exclusively comprised of YIMBYs, local housing. And I am really excited to be here. I'm trying to remember when I first, I don't know. I've just thought it made common sense as long as I can remember that if more people want to move into our biggest cities, we should let them. It just seems obvious to me.
Pretty good answer, and one that's frankly echoed in some of the interviews we're going to show. Ray, we'll just go around the kind of grid. Wonder if you could tell us a little bit about who you are and how you became a YIMBY.
Yeah, I'm Ray Delahanty. I run the City Nerd YouTube channel, where I think I'm streaming it to a bunch of folks right now on my channel. Yeah, so how did I become a YIMBY? I probably always was one. I just didn't have a word for it. And I think it really got amplified after I started my channel, and probably after a few months, I realized that the thing that people were, there are several reasons people watch my channel which I don't understand at all, but one of the primary things is just housing affordability. Like people care deeply about the topic. And once I realized that, and I started thinking about why that is and why people are so passionate about it, it really became clear that this is such an important movement. So in a way, it doesn't surprise me at all that it's risen to have such a stature in this 2024 election.
Well, thanks for being with us today. Daryl, curious for your perspective.
Hi, my name is Daryl Fairweather. I'm a housing economist, and I'm also a forthcoming author. My book, Hate the Game. You can see it back there. Pre-orders available now. Anyway, I became a YIMBY really just out of a love of market efficiency, I guess is the best way to put it. I got my PhD at the University of Chicago, so definitely believe in free markets being kind of the default. And it just drives me nuts that single family zoning is this regulation that is the worst kind of regulation, because it just makes it harder for us to supply a basic human need, and it has all of these bad effects that tend to hurt the most vulnerable people in society more than anybody else. So I wish to get rid of single family zoning, and that aligns with YIMBYism. And, we could talk about how I hate Prop 13 too. I know that aligns with a lot of people here as well, but yeah, it just comes out of this desire for a more prosperous economy that can better serve everybody, just so we have more resources to deal with all the things that we need to deal with. Like, why are we shooting ourselves in the feet on housing? It just doesn't make any sense.
Thanks, Daryl. Armand, you got flags on flags on flags. You are a founder of YIMBYs for Harris, but how did you come to YIMBYism in the first place?
So my parents are refugees from Poland in the 80s, and we have struggled with housing security our entire lives. America gave us a lot of opportunities. That's why I'm proud to rock the flag. And I think what really limits the potential of this country is the ability to build housing affordably. I've lived in my car. I've been in a lot of precarious situations around housing myself, struggled to afford rent. And I think it is just really, really important that we make it so that everybody can afford to live in America and have the American dream. People are asking at the dog's name, apparently. That's Ivy. Part of the reason I think building housing is important is because when you want to expand your family, whether it's a fur family or a human family, you need more room. And yeah, I'm so happy about this, especially that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are really fighting to build more housing and making it central to their campaign. I think that message is going to resonate in Wisconsin. It's going to resonate in Pennsylvania. It's going to resonate in Michigan. Americans know that the price of housing is too damn high. And Kamala Harris, you all are going to call tonight. We are all going to call tonight to the voters to let them know that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are the candidates who will make the rents lower, make housing more affordable, and make the American dream possible.
Thanks, Armand. And going from one co-host to another, Nia, you hosted our big YIMBYchella rally with more than 70 YIMBY speakers for Harris. Tell us about you and your YIMBY origin stories.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nia Johnson. I am one of the co-founders for YIMBYs for Harris, as well as the founder for Party Ventures, and we invest in media, the future of media. But related to that, it's that I came to the YIMBY movement because I was a total pop culture, artsy kid who just had who grew up in the suburbs and had no outlet for any of their interests. Everything was where I lived was mostly just sports, and no hate to sports, but that wasn't my thing. So I just wanted to just be in a place where I could just be with people who were similar to me and shared my interests. And I didn't really get to do that as an adult until I went to a city school for college. So I just want to basically just help create an environment for kids like me who are weird or artsy to be themselves. So.
Thank you, Nia. And last but not least, Omari, thank you so much for being here with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to being pro-housing?
Yeah, no worries. I've told this story before, but in a past life, I was a an elected official in Florida, served in the state level, served at the local level. And before that, I was an educator. And like my first year in the classroom, I had a student who was in the 3rd grade who was homeless. And, you know, like to be in your 20s and to have someone who's 9-year-old, you know, tell you that they don't have a regular place to sleep makes you feel really helpless, because that's not a problem that you individually are capable of solving. And as I reached out and looked around and contacted folks, it wasn't a problem that, folks who were a lot further along in life and who had a lot more connections than I did, it wasn't a problem that they could solve either. And so like for me, like the motivation to care about housing, the understanding of what the stakes were in these issues came from that experience, from, teaching students who were housing insecure. Fast forward, I won a local election to get on the city council in a little town called Lake Worth Beach. And I hadn't been in office 6 months. And folks who helped me win, who helped me beat an incumbent, which is really, really hard, came to me and were like, there's an affordable housing project coming into our neighborhood. And it was my district. And basically they didn't want it to go through, and they were asking for my help as a city commissioner to basically stop the project. And like, that was like a moment for me when, I realized, look, that there's what we say about affordable housing, right? None of the people who asked me to stop, it was just 3 stories, 85 units of, capital A affordable housing, like deeply subsidized, all the stuff that people say they want, right? People say they want that stuff, but then when push comes to shove and it's in their neighborhood, often they don't, right? And so like the combination of that experience as an educator, like understanding what the stakes were, that experience early, in my service, understanding that, sometimes people are full of it, and that their rhetoric doesn't really align with, what they'll do when the rubber hits the road. That made me, really, say, okay, we have to approach this differently, because what we're doing isn't working. So
thank you so much, Amari, and incredible to get your perspective as somebody who served in elected office and at that local and state level. There was a question in the YouTube chat just to kick us off, and we are going to do our best throughout this to monitor both the YouTube comments and the WhatsApp chat, just to make this interactive and responsive and give folks at home kind of a voice in this conversation. There was a question asking, okay, yeah, but we're all here to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and we know that Kamala Harris has a housing plan. We know that she wants to build 3 million new units. We know that she is the most YIMBY candidate for president ever in our history. And we know the stakes of electing Donald Trump, but this is such a local issue, right? Local zoning, local funding. What on earth can a president do? What can the federal government do? And that's very much one of the themes that you're going to hear a little bit about today when we share some of the interviews we've been conducting with elected officials to get their standpoint, whether they're a senator or a governor, on what having an ally in the White House means for them. We'll also get John Lovett's take on, as somebody who served in the White House, on just what it means to wield that bully pulpit on behalf of pushing people in your own party. But I actually want to start by kind of answering this question, because I was trading some emails with Senator Elizabeth Warren's team today, because spoiler alert, this is not going to be the last one of these kind of events we'll do. We are going to roll this out again 1 week from tonight on election eve. And so I was trading emails and talked with the Warren team. And you'll forgive me if I'm reading from another computer right now. So I'll look askance. But, so Kamala's, of course, got this plan to build 3 million new housing units. You won't be surprised to hear Senator Elizabeth Warren has written a bill, introduced a bill, and is ready to go to build 3 million new housing units with federal support. It's called the American Housing and Economic Mobility Act. And how it works is the federal government will finance the production and rehabilitation of 3 million new homes and apartments. And the way that they're going to do that, first, they're going to invest about $550 billion into federal programs to support that construction and that rehabilitation. They're going to create a down payment assistance program to help low-income first-time homebuyers with their initial payment on a home purchase. But also, you might be interested in this part, they're going to leverage a brand new grant program to incentivize local governments to eliminate land use rules that block and permanently delay new housing, by rewarding cities that simplify their zoning rules with new infrastructure grants. So even though this is such a local issue with such a sort of a fabric of intertwining local laws and barriers, there's a lot that the federal government can do, both in law and in the bully pulpit, but also in funding and incentivizing to get housing done. So I thought that was interesting, worth sharing with the folks at home, and this will be a theme in the clips to come. But before we get to some of these clips, we're a week out, right? A week from tonight is the eve of Election Day. So I just want to ask our panel, how's everybody feeling?
Woo! I'm not saying anything.
I'm very tired, and everyone should be tired, because if you're not tired, it means you're not working hard enough. It's going to be a very close election.
That's toxic thinking.
No, it's normally, yes. I know for startup grind, hustle mentality, it's not a sustainable long-term thing. But when you're a week away from an election that will determine the fate of billions of people around the planet, you got to work.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. You got to make some calls tonight. Do some things that are scary. Talk to people who may not agree with you, who might have a different perspective. If you are near a place where you can knock on doors, knock on doors. Everything you can do. You don't want to leave anything on the finish line. It's the last week. So
look, if you're nervous, one thing you can do is to work the nerves out, right? If you want to go to sleep at night, feeling, secure, you can do what you can during the day while the sun is out to, help deliver a win, especially in the states that matter. I think I'm optimistic, and I think I'll feel better and better the more that I personally contribute to, getting maybe one person to go out and vote, right? Like that, if a bunch of people, I mean, like you look at the margins across the blue wall last year, right? If there are volunteers across the country, dialing folks, knocking on doors, right? Collectively, each person maybe getting one extra vote out, that made the difference, right? So, yeah.
I think it's a great point.
There's an interesting dynamic here.
Please.
Oh, sorry. There's an interesting dynamic where, look, everybody knows this is a close race, right? Every pundit says it. Everybody can feel it in their gut. Every poll and every modeler, whether you're following, the zombie version of 538 or the new Nate Silver thing, or Split Ticket, or any of these services, right? They all are like, or prediction markets, everybody's somewhere in the realm of it's 50-50, or it's 55-45, or it's 60-40, but like everybody says it's pretty close. But there's a dynamic where like this makes Republicans think that they are 99% locks to win, and it makes Democrats really scared and nervous and anxious. And maybe that's just because like Democrats are self-selected for like more anxious people in general after the experiences we've had in like 2016. I don't know, but I think there is something interesting about that everybody knows it's a coin flip, and yet it kind of makes the MAGA people feel like they're invincible, and it makes us anxious but hopefully motivated to work, which I think could play into our advantage, that one side thinks they've got it in the bag and the other side is frantically working. That's just an interesting dynamic I've picked up on.
It's like use Dunning-Kruger in our favor.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing some of that kind of overconfidence on the other side. We saw, just this past weekend, that crazy fascist rally in New York that was somewhere between a victory lap and a preparation for post-election violence. So we know what the stakes are, but we can see in the chat folks saying, hey, yeah, I got getting out there, canvassing, making calls. That does something about the nerves. That helps me feel better, helps me feel good about the impact I'm having. I made some calls, made a bunch of calls over this weekend. It's really easy. The same link we're going to give to you tonight, you can use at your leisure anytime you want. You'll be totally trained tonight for the rest of the way. You can just log in, click that, and it'll start connecting with people. I was going to say 24 hours a day, not 24 hours a day. Sometimes Americans are asleep, but you can, throughout the waking day, just log in and start making calls. It'll connect you with the right people in the right states, in the right time zones. And that really does help. And it's great fun too, right? It is actually, as much as you can have some weird conversations, it's so satisfying to get the chance to take someone who, was thinking about voting for Kamala, wants to vote for Kamala, and help them get their ballot in. It's so nice to be able to talk to somebody who maybe is on the Trump side of things, is a little hostile, and has a really broken information diet, and to be able to introduce new ideas. And folks who are watching from home are folks who know a thing or two. And it's really cool to be able to share that. It feels good. I know about an hour ago, as I was prepping for this, I booked a ticket to DC tonight on a midnight red eye. I'm going to pop into town, watch Kamala's closing argument in DC tomorrow, and then take a bus to Philly and start knocking on doors. And would encourage anyone who's got the time to do that. Anyone who can hop on a bus and go knock on doors, do that. And of course, the calling's going to be there for you. So with that, I want to start to introduce some of our conversations with elected officials, which I think you'll get a kick out of. We had Nia led a really fun conversation with Senator Brian Schatz, who's very passionate about not just the election, but about housing. And I want to show a little clip where he explains kind of how he was radicalized for YIMBYism.
It's two things. My solemn obligation as a United States Senator from Hawaii, the most isolated, heavily populated place on the planet, is to try to make it work, try to make the math work for people in Hawaii. And it's just, in my view, it continues to be the best place in the world, but it's really, really expensive to try to make the arithmetic work. And so, as you kind of look at the pain points and the reason that ultimately people have to move away to the continent to make their life there is housing. And I started to realize the problem is that we have a shortage of it. And not that we're not building enough of a certain category of housing, not that there's too much of another category of it. We just literally are 60,000 units short across the state of Hawaii. And for the first time in a very, very long time, Hawaii's population got smaller. And that is not a healthy direction for an island state. The other part of this that I think, I'm almost sheepish to admit is that, I got onto the Senate Housing and Banking Committee, and I guess I didn't quite understand the deeply troubling history of zoning and restrictive covenants in real estate and minimum lot size, all those requirements that make suburban people happy came in the wake of Jim Crow segregation being outlawed. And then the racists understanding that they couldn't be explicitly racist in preventing mostly black people from living in certain neighborhoods, but that they could use minimum lot size, restrictive covenants, planning and zoning, all of that stuff, essentially as a proxy for race, and continue decades and decades of segregation, which sort of jibed with my instinct that although the kind of way we come up in Hawaii politics is that it's somehow a progressive value to prevent housing, there is nothing progressive about preventing the building of housing. And that in fact, there is a strong historical record that it was the bad guys that were preventing the development of housing. And they did it not just for economic elitism or just narrow interests related to the, character of their neighborhood, but explicitly racist reasons. And so that was how I got radicalized.
All right, so you hear Senator Schatz talking about not just the need to build more housing, but how it is not progressive to block housing. Continuing on this theme, I want to share a video from John Lovett, former speechwriter for Barack Obama and co-host of Pod Save America.
You consider yourself a YIMBY?
Yes, I do. Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Have you always been a YIMBY?
Well, I feel like I am a negative partisan for YIMBYs. I don't know that I'm anti-NIMBY. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I begin. There was a story that really, there have been a lot of stories like this, but a group of NIMBYs using California's environmental laws to basically retract a bunch of acceptances for kids to go to college in Northern California made me so angry. And there are tons of examples like that all over California about people basically using the good intentions of lawmakers trying to protect the environment and preserve the rights of people who live in neighborhoods to prevent places from changing and growing. And becoming the welcoming.
Sure. Well, let me thank you all for being here and for supporting the Harris-Walz team. Because first, I just have to say, how often have you heard a presidential candidate talk about housing as a priority for her administration or his administration? But this time it's going to be her administration. And it's remarkable. And so let me just tell you, I start from the values point of view about housing is that it's a basic human right. Everyone deserves access to affordable, decent, safe housing. Secondly, when I was growing up, my grandfather, I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas, and he was determined that as an African-American, he was the first Black letter carrier in El Paso, said, we're going to own our own home because that is the only way that we can ever send you guys to college, acquire wealth, the whole 9 yards. So I've always been about housing and making sure people had access to affordable housing as well as home ownership opportunities. Fast forward in the California legislature, I chaired, when I was in the California Senate, the Housing and Land Use Committee of the state Senate. And so I was able then to really look at California housing from a legislative perspective. And here, of course, in California, experts say we need 3 to 4 million new housing units to bring the prices down. And in fact, I've looked at housing, though, in its totality as a continuum. Then fast forward, I go to Congress, served for 11 years on the Banking, now Financial Services Committee, the subcommittee on housing. And it was on that subcommittee that I was able to work with Bernie Sanders to establish the National Housing Trust Fund. And so we began to look at ways to bring down the cost of housing from rental property for young people, for home ownership, and looking at my view, again, as in addition to it being a human right, housing is infrastructure. And so how do we build more housing, bring the cost down, and see this as part of not only our human infrastructure, but it's part of our infrastructure like roads and bridges. So housing has been a big deal. And when I went to graduate school at UC Berkeley, now, can you believe this? I got my master's in social work. I received a HUD fellowship to do that because I was so interested in the social determinants of housing and why so many people then in the day didn't have a decent, safe place to live. So HUD, under a Republican administration, provided a 2-year fellowship for me to look at and figure out how people's mental health and how their social status could be improved through housing initiatives. So I was able to get a HUD fellowship to go to graduate school. So this has been part of my DNA forever.
My apologies for the quick cut there from John Lovett. I had my finger hovering over the next clip and gently grazed it. But you did see both Brian Schatz and John Lovett kind of call out that there is nothing progressive about stopping housing. And then Congresswoman Barbara Lee from California, from the Oakland area, offering a progressive view of why housing abundance and government work to support it is an essential part of liberalism, of progressivism, and of realizing progressive values of extending economic equality and empowerment to everybody. And I just want to share, going to the governor's office, share a little clip from Governor Jared Polis on how he became a YIMBY.
Look, it's really so people can afford to live and thrive in Colorado, across the country. We know, you all remember, if you went to college, Economics 101, the price of something is a function of supply and demand. You can make the price go down by reducing demand and making your city or state crappy so no one wants to live there, but that's not the way you want to do it. You like the demand is high. Demand is high in Colorado. It's because people want to live here. It's wonderful. But when you have artificial constraints on supply and don't allow homes to be built, boom, prices go up. And that's what happened here. It's what happened in a lot of places. So let's get rid of those barriers, allow the supply to catch up, bring prices down to close to the replacement value, which, again, you have the average home price in the Denver metro right now is $600,000. Building one is probably more like $200,000. So there's a big delta there and the land obviously costs money too, but we should be able to bring the cost down considerably on new houses so people can afford them, build wealth, have a place to live, have ownership.
Yeah, Omari, you seem like you got something you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of my favorite governors for that reason. Hearing him talk about bringing home prices down to about replacement value says that the guy reads the literature, and that's a good thing to know. That a guy who runs an important state, I mean, every state's important, but a state like Colorado, where there are lots of issues, and obviously it's a tough job. He's got a lot to do. The guy is informed. It's admirable. And it's great to see folks like him and everyone else in this call, say what nerds have been saying for corners, like in corners of the internet and in public comment for so many years. And I think, like when people ask, like, what's the value of having a president who's a YIMBY? This is such a local issue. Well, they can provide leadership. They can make it cool and well known that NIMBYism is not a progressive value, and that YIMBYism is a progressive value. That has incredible power, and that's not something to be overlooked.
Great points, and what Governor Polis is doing in Colorado has been phenomenal. It's been far-reaching, and he's had accomplishments just in the last few years. I'm going to show a clip in a second where he talks a little bit about what he's accomplished, and then exactly to your theme in terms of what can a President Kamala Harris bring to the table. I'll show a few different clips with takes on that, and that should bring us to our training. So let's go to Governor Polis of Colorado to reflect on his record. Yeah, jump in.
Cool is that Greater Washington, which is the YIMBYs in Washington, D.C. area, actually did a poll. And what they found was when you polled like local YIMBY policies, a certain percentage of people supported it. And then when you gave them the context that Kamala Harris is a YIMBY and supports building more housing, approval went really way up, especially amongst Democrats. And that is like empirical proof of how leadership from the top of the party flows throughout the entire Democratic base. And especially because Democrats control most of these cities that have housing problems, telling Democrats at the local level that the way to be a Democrat and the way to be a supporter of Kamala Harris is to be pro-housing and be a YIMBY that's powerful. So Omari's 100% on point there.
That's a phenomenal point, and thank you for introducing that study. Yeah, let's get to Governor Polis on reforms, and then let's hear from Senator Schatz and John Lovett on exactly the point you're raising about the influence of the bully pulpit.
We made it easier to build accessory dwelling units by right. We got rid of parking requirements. These are often imposed by cities, more parking than people want. Let the market determine, whether you need one parking spot or two or even zero. If you don't need one, why add $40,000 to the cost of the unit and reduces the number of units that can be built. We also did a state zoning template effectively for multi-family zoning within half a mile of transit hubs. We're really investing in transit. I was at one of our new transit hubs in Loveland yesterday. We're very excited about delivering front range passenger rail as well as great bus service, but also the opportunity to live next to it. So again, a family of four might have one car instead of two. Why pay for that extra parking spot? You get to work when you want by a train or bus, and you might have a car to go to the mountains on weekends, fine. But like, how do you get that lifestyle available to more people?
Nice. And how would a potential Harris administration help with that? Like, what impact can the federal government have on a place like Colorado?
She's the first candidate for president I've ever seen talk about increasing the supply of housing. She has a great goal, 3 million new homes, and a lot of tactics and ways that we can help get there. We'll be excited to partner with Kamala Harris and her administration to actually increase the supply of housing. So with that as her basic value, there's a lot of levers the federal government has to increase supply, and we need them.
And next we'll go to Senator Schatz.
Well, I think, it turbocharges the movement. That's the first thing. And I think part of what, one of the reasons that I sort of go out of my way to be almost provocative rhetorically is that I do think we need to change the politics too. It's not just a matter of passing, laws at the federal level or incentive programs at the federal level. Like, we as a progressive movement have to have a reckoning about what is our view about housing. Do we want more of it or do we want less of it? And that is the binary choice in front of us. So I think almost the most important thing for any political leader is to start to shift that political conversation so that everybody, if you're a 23-year-old who's working for the city council, may eventually want to run for office, like, there should be a space for a pro-housing progressive to do so. And she will create that space. I'm trying to create that space, but I'm not world famous like that. The other part is the incentives, right? Is that we, of course, have the YIMBY program through HUD that is basically $100 million annually to incentivize states and states and counties to, deregulate their housing process. And so, yeah, there are incentive programs, there are subsidy programs on the federal side. But again, this is going to come down to state land use law and county ordinances and procedures and rules and hookup requirements. And, I think there's an overhaul in the city council right now of the land use ordinance, which I'm not criticizing, but like they are determining the height above ground that a beehive must be and the distance from the setback that a beehive must be, which by the way is like not trivial. People do try to have beehives in urban areas. And if I were next to one, I would probably want to, make sure. But I'm just saying, like, it's so damn granular and everybody's trying to get it exactly right. And it's, by the way, a damn shame that some of the more blue states, some of the more red states are building more housing and more clean energy simply because they're just making it easier.
All right, and let's just briefly go back to John Lovett for some thoughts based on his White House experience.
I think what's like instructive about the Kamala Harris proposal on housing is it reflects both needs, right? There's an urgent need right now to help people, right? Like if you bought a house in the 90s, right? Your house went up in value, and so your wealth has grown with the rate of houses. But if you didn't, if you're a young person trying to buy a house, or if you're an older person who finally feels like they're in the position to maybe buy a house or buy an apartment, you feel like you're priced out because of how much housing prices have gone up. So having a credit of $25,000 for first-time homebuyers helps people mitigate that what is often the biggest challenge to becoming a homeowner, right? Which is the down payment, while at the same time recognizing that this is a supply issue and building millions of houses. And both on policy and on politics, I think Democrats are in a better place when, look, Republicans want to make democratic policies about what you give up. They want to make environmentalism about they're coming for your hamburgers and your straws, right? They want to make healthcare a zero-sum game. They want to make all this a zero-sum game, but we're like at our best when we're talking about how much we gain, right? How much we gain when we build more housing, that everybody can win if we start increasing the housing supply, that there's jobs in it, that there's access to the American dream in it. So I feel like we see that across the board. And like that's also, by the way, like housing is just one example, but investing in clean energy, investing in infrastructure, right? Like Joe Biden has been an incredibly successful president on domestic policy because he understood that we needed to be the party of not just clean energy, but in making those investments that we just didn't make for a really long time, that we failed to make, and that those are not just things that create jobs, but they create the opportunities for economic growth. They create the space for people to build businesses, buy homes, kind of live the version of the life they want to lead without being constrained, as you said, by endless snarling traffic or being unable to afford a home where they're near where their kids live or near where their parents.
Stephen, can I just say, by the way, how incredible it is that one of the nation's best governors and one of the most prominent YIMBYs in America is literally named Polis. I mean, was it fate? Was it destiny?
Yeah. I don't have a comment on that, but I like it. Speaking of, we're about to, we've heard just a second ago about some of what President Harris can do in terms of incentives. Yeah, perfect.
Walker, is it even more of a coincidence that a congresswoman who speaks for me is named Barbara Lee? I mean, it's crazy.
I love that rhyme.
It's amazing. I just want to go. But Congresswoman Lee is amazing. Like that interview we had, you only saw a small snippet of it. She just has so much knowledge about the depths of housing policy. She could name a zillion different programs, exactly how they work. Like she's so cool. Like, and I'm so happy that she's a YIMBY. She's a strong progressive who only votes against the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War. Like somebody who's like nobody would challenge her progressive credentials, and she came on here to be part of the YIMBYs for Harris, and that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I can say the same thing for Senator Schatz as well. Like, I think like I was like really like impressed with like how much he really knew about like truly like the racist roots of like NIMBYism, and like we got really granular, and like unfortunately we didn't show all that, but it was like a really, really like amazing conversation. Like, loved it.
Yeah, and we'll have more opportunities throughout tonight to share more clips and over the next week before the election to share some of these full interviews to make sure you can see all of it, because it really was a generous act by these folks to spend time with us. And all of them came with passion, authenticity, and detail, as Armand referenced. So we'll share more from Barbara Lee and Jared Governor Polis, Senator Brian Schatz, also a good name. Thought it wasn't. Got a revised pronunciation note. Turns out, great name for taking our shots at housing reform. And of course, from John Levitt and Governor Wes Moore as well. But having now heard about what the federal government can do to incentivize local cities to change their zoning laws and build housing, what they can do to provide very popular tax, help with folks subsidizing their initial payments on homes to become first-time home owners, and to fund the building of new homes. We're going to jump into some phone banking training and get ready to go. Good. So I'm going to welcome to the stage, and I'm going to let our panelists kind of take a break for a second. We'll see more of them after our first phone banking sprint. Thank you, panelists. I'm going to add to the stage as I remove some other folks. Please welcome Sophie Kuntz from the Harris for President campaign.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm very excited to join you all. What an excellent panel.
And Sophie, thank you for all of the support you've given in terms of getting us set up with the right technology, with the right training, and to make some phone calls tonight. So we're going to share some slides, get you all trained up. You'll be ready to go, not just tonight, but every night to come. So Sophie, if you're ready, let's dive in.
I'm ready. Let's go. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I cannot say it enough. With pretty much just a week until the election, it's getting late in Monday, so we're really getting down to the wire. These calls are so important. So thank you so much for dedicating your evening to helping us get Kamala Harris elected. Let's go on to the next slide, and we'll talk about the agenda for this call. Pretty straightforward. So we'll start out with who we're talking to, why it matters, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how to make calls using our dialer system. That will cover all of the tech stuff that you need to know, and then we'll talk about how to have quality conversations with the people that you're calling, and then we'll jump right into making calls. We'll get through this as quick as we can, but there's a lot of information that we have to communicate to you. So bear with us. You're going to hear a lot of us for the next probably 20 minutes or so, and then we're off to the races. So let's just keep on moving. Again, I want to thank you for being here on behalf of myself, on behalf of the campaign, Kamala and Tim. Everyone is so grateful to all of our volunteers and all of our coalitions. You all do such incredible, vital work. We are a people-powered campaign, and that does not just mean the staff. The volunteers, everyone, the work that you do is so important. The phone banking, calling, door knocking, everything you can do at this point is going to be the difference between winning and losing this election. Not might be, will be, right? Like, this is so incredibly vital. So thank you so much for this. We couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, sure. I can take this. 8 days. I mean, it's 1 week from tonight is the eve of the election. And then that's it. So we're going to leave everything out there tonight, leave it all on the field, and get this done. And part of the reason is, as Sophie mentioned, every call you make can make the difference, right? Not just because every call boosts that person's likelihood of turning out and voting for Harris by 4%, but also, I'm a baseball fan. I'm watching the World Series right now. Been great so far. The last election was decided by 44,000 people. That is less than the amount of people that can fit in Yankee Stadium or Dodger Stadium. So it is a very small amount of people, and every phone call and every vote makes the difference. And tonight's training is going to prep you. You don't need to click this QR code right now. The link's on our website. This training is going to get you ready to join either any other events or just phone bank on your own the rest of the way. You will be ready to go.
Perfect. All right. So let's get a little bit into who we're actually going to be talking to. So we can go on to our next slide. I am pleased to tell you that at this point, most of the phone calls that we're making are, these are pretty much, none of these are persuasion calls, which would be calling people who are on the fence or who are registered Republicans. None of that. At this point, we are calling people that we are pretty sure are going to turn out for Kamala to make sure that they have a plan to vote and to make sure that they are going to vote in this election. So ideally, the only persuading you should be doing is persuading people who just aren't sure. So that being said, there's three types of voters that you're probably going to be talking to. The first is those undecided voters. These are likely, again, not people who are very strongly planning to vote for Trump or to vote Republican down the ballot. These are people who are maybe between voting for Kamala and not voting at all, or who maybe just don't plan to vote. These are the people that we want to convince that Kamala is a good choice for this country. Not a better choice than Trump, even though we all know it's true, but a good choice on her own merit. So in these cases, we're going to ask them what issues are important to them. The dialer is going to include a ton of information for you if you want to talk about specific policy, if it's something that you're not super sure of, but also you can always say you don't know if someone asks a specific question. For example, if someone has like a really important policy that you don't know a lot about, that's okay. You can direct them to Kamala Harris's website. It's kamalaharris.com. There's tons of information there for them to learn on their own. You are sharing your own feelings, your own experiences, and whatever knowledge that you think is helpful. So you're going to be asking them for them support. And success in this case doesn't necessarily mean they leave the call, ballot in hand to go vote for Kamala. It just means that you had a positive conversation and you feel like that they've taken some of what you've said to heart, right? So that's really the goal there. The second type of voter you might interact with is the supportive voter. So this is people who we know support the campaign, who are educated, who know who Kamala Harris is and what she stands for. So these people, even though they're supportive, might not have a strong plan to vote. So that's the goal for these callers. If you talk to them and they say, oh, yeah, I'll vote for Kamala, probably, you say, awesome. Do you have a plan? Are you voting by mail? Are you voting early? The dialer will include information for voting information for their state. So you can say, these are the dates. These are the times. You can send them iwillvote.com and tell them to look up their local polling location, all of that stuff. You want to leave that call and that person has a plan to vote. Okay, that's the goal for these supportive voters. The last type is the best type. We love this type of voter. These are people who are so excited. Maybe they've even already voted for Kamala. These are the people where you're going to say, I'm taking my evening to phone bank. Why don't you join me next time, right? You're going to direct these people to go.kamalaharris.com and tell them to sign up for volunteering. Ideally, they'll do it right there on the phone with you. That's the best possible outcome for this because we all know we're busy people. We have a lot to be stressed out about a week out from the election. So if they get off the phone with you without having signed up for a volunteer slot, odds are they're not going to. So really try to get them to do it on the phone with you. That's the best outcome for this situation.
All right, let's talk about how we're going to do this.
All right. I hope you guys are ready for a lot of nitty gritty. So the things that you need for this are a fully charged computer, tablet, or smartphone, any internet browser. Any of them should work. We've tested it with pretty much all of them. And I know you have both of those things because you're here on this call with all of us. Lastly, headphones, especially ones that can connect to your phone. This is optional, but it does just make everything easier because there's going to be multiple audio streams between this call right here and the calls that you're going to be doing through our dialer. So if you have all this stuff, you're ready to go.
Nice. And you can head just to yimbysforharris.com and you'll be able to just make one click and open up Scale to Win, which is the system that we are going to use. So you can do that right now.
I'm also just going to go ahead and drop that in the WhatsApp just so that everyone there has it as well.
Thank you. And while we're making calls, Sophie's going to be in the WhatsApp to answer any questions around tech support, messaging, anything you need. You can pop into a chat with her if you need to talk something out. So she's going to be a resource all night in support of you. When you click the link, It's going to make you choose your state by that number 1 arrow. And once you've done that, that's just it tells us where you are. It's helpful. But I think tonight we're calling Nevada and Arizona, right? Because of the time zone. And you'll do that by clicking that bottom button, which is start making calls now. The one at the top right will work too, but YIMBYs won't get credit. So use the one in the bottom left, and that's going to get you there.
Absolutely. So once you've opened the dialer, this is what you're going to see. Before we start anything, if you all want to follow along with us as we walk you through this, we've included these lovely, helpful little screenshots, but I know personally, it's always a lot easier for me to follow along. So if you want to take the moment to open this up, highly recommend that you do that. So what you'll do once you get to this point is you're going to click on the preview script button. Highly recommend doing this before you start calling. This is going to show you how the system works and also everything that you're going to be expected to say. It's great to be able to go through that before you're actually live on a call with someone, especially if it's your first time. It's pretty easy to freeze up. So you want to make sure you're comfortable first.
You might not know this about me, but when I'm not doing YIMBYs for Harris, I direct actors in big shows. So I can tell you that it would help you to practice the script out loud, actually. Honestly, you could probably go cold, but if you want to just familiarize yourself with it, not a bad idea to click through. There's different options for you to click based on how the conversation goes that sort of helps slow you. You can also already see on that little toolbar to the far right, there's going to be information about things like polling places, just stuff that you can draw on to help. But if you are feeling nervous at all or you just want to practice, it's a really good idea to just speak it out loud. And you can start putting things in your own words, which you do have permission from the campaign to do. Be you, be authentic. So once you open it up, you can just click talking to the correct person and navigate through if you want to preview it all.
Absolutely. So just to walk you through this a little bit more, when you'll see this bar at the top, that'll be there the whole time. Whenever that is green, once you're actually in this and not in the preview, that means that you are connected to a caller. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but as soon as that bar turns green, you can launch right into your little speech. So once you're talking to that person, once you've introduced yourself and found out if the person you're looking for is on the other end of the line, you're going to select a canvas result option. So how the dialer works as you click through is it kind of functions like a flow chart. So what option you select here for canvas result is going to affect the next thing that is given to you to speak over the line to your caller. So in this case, and we can go to the next slide here, the ideal situation is going to be talking to the correct person. So they answer the phone, they're on your list, they're the name that you're looking for. So that is the best thing to click. That is what is going to take you on to the rest of the script. Pretty much anything else is going to end the call, or at least is going to take you to a little message and then you'll hang up the phone. So these are all pretty specific. Most of them are also self-explanatory. The one point I would really like to make here is that if you're not quite sure which of these applies to a given situation, we just ask that you select answering machine. The reason for that is that if you select something like deceased or do not call, or wrong number when you're not 100% sure that that's the situation, that will permanently remove this person from our calling list, which we don't want to do unless we're positive. So if you're not super confident in what to click, just say answering machine. That's totally fine. And again, it says it here, but only select busy/call back if the person explicitly says, I would love to talk to you. I can't right now. I would like to be called back, right? So just don't select that unless that's the case. We don't want to be bothering people who don't want to be bothered. But all of this, I hope, is pretty self-explanatory. Again, if you have any questions, I will be in the WhatsApp, so you can always come there and ask me.
So do you want to take this one?
I can take this one. Absolutely. I feel like I'm just talking at you all, but I hope this is helpful. So step 4 will be select your call method. Now there's two ways that you can do this. Ideally, I think the best way is to have the dialer up on your computer and to use your phone for audio. That's going to give you the best quality audio generally. And also it means that there's less to deal with when it comes to the 2 audio sources of this call and then the phone banking that you'll be doing. So that is what I recommend. If you don't have 2 devices with you, that is totally fine. You can do everything from one device. It just might involve a little more switching things around, right? But ideally, you will be selecting call with this device plus phone for audio, and that's what we're going to sort of walk through in the next few slides. But if you are using your computer to call, it will be very similar.
Big thing if you're using your phone is it's going to start a session, and that's just going to roll through all the calls. So put your phone aside, don't hang up, keep it going through the whole your whole sprint. When you first log in, it is going to prompt you to put name, email, phone, stuff like that. Nobody sees that. It's just campaign stuff, security stuff. So nobody that you're calling is going to see your phone number or your name or anything like that.
Yeah, so once you put that information in, it's going to give you a phone number to call. Calling that phone number will connect your phone to the dialer. I'd like to reiterate two things that Steve just said. One, after that point, please don't hang up your phone. If you do, it'll disconnect you from the dialer, which is not a big deal. It's very easy to reconnect. It just takes time and it's kind of annoying. So what I recommend, and part of why we recommend having headphones, is you connect your headphones to your phone, call into the dialer, put your phone face down, and don't touch it till you're done phone banking, because there's so much muscle memory to hang up on there, but you'll be hanging up on your computer screen instead. Also, to reiterate, your phone number will not show up when you make calls. Your data is completely safe. What is going to show up on their phone is the phone number for their local campaign office. So if they try to call back, it'll go to the campaign office, never ever to you.
When you do start your calls, what's happening is it's making multiple calls at once, looking for someone who picks up. When somebody picks up, it's going to flash a green bar at the top and also make a little noise like boop to let you know they've picked up. Something to note, it is possible that they've said hello and then it's gone, shoot, I have to connect you, and then made the boop. So you might be starting a cold conversation. You might be starting after they've said hello and you didn't hear it. It's fine. Jump right in, say hi, introduce yourself. As if they did say hello.
Absolutely. And then when you finish your script, you can select end survey. If you misclicked anything or you want to update something, you can just hit the back button and change your responses afterwards. Just make sure that if they haven't hung up, you have, and you can end the call at the top of the screen there. You can see at the end of the green bar, there's an end call button. Just press that instead of hanging up on your phone. That'll end the call. You can do everything you need to do and then click end survey. And that will move you on. So after that point, please, again, do not hang up on your phone. I've done it. It's really annoying. Try to just keep everything to the dialer. Past that point, if you need to take a break, drink some water, do whatever you got to do, that's fine. And then hit continue calling. The dialer will start up again and it'll connect you to the next person.
All right, let's talk through how to talk to people.
Yeah, again, this should be pretty straightforward, but just to give you a few tips. The first thing, Steve put this very well, talk as soon as you hear the beep or see that green light. Because of how the dialer works, you just might not have heard their greeting. Totally fine. They probably said hello, even if you didn't hear it. Just jump right into your speech. If you delay too long, they'll think you're a bot or a butt dial and they'll hang up the phone. So make sure you really jump right in there. The second thing I want to cover is to focus on the personal and the positive, right? I think it's very easy to, focus too much maybe on the statistics or focus too much on all the reasons that Trump is bad for this country. But we really want to be focusing not on that, but on all the reasons that Kamala is good for this country. So we want to keep things positive. We want to avoid bashing. We really are just going for explaining why Kamala Harris, in a vacuum, not against anyone, is a really, really great candidate and would be a really good president for this country. So that is what you're trying to do. You're going to speak from personal experience. If you want to take a moment before the call just to think, why are you here? Why are you here on a Monday evening making these phone calls, dedicating your time to this? Like, what is it that motivates you other than spite against Donald Trump? What positive things motivate you to do this work? And keep those in mind while you're doing your calls. Thirdly, I mentioned this earlier. It's okay to say you don't know. If someone asks you a really specific question, you're not an expert. You're a passionate volunteer, right? And you can tell them that. You can tell them that you're not here to be an expert. It's a great question that they've asked. If they'd like to look it up, they can go to kamalaharris.com and they can take a look at her platform there, and hopefully that will answer their question, right? Don't feel the need to answer everything. It's okay not to know things. Lastly, follow the script, but you can also make it your own. So our scripts are based on research. They're very carefully written for the voters we're trying to reach. So we do ask that you stick to the script pretty closely. That might get difficult at times. People can ask questions that we didn't prepare for, but whenever possible, stick to the script. Of course, you can change the language around. We want it to feel natural coming out of your mouth and not like you're just reading off of a page. But generally, we ask that you stick to the script as tightly as possible, language notwithstanding.
Good tips for conversations in general. when they say something, acknowledge it, right? People like to hear their own name. They like to hear, know that they've been heard, and to hear what they've said sort of repeated back in your own words. It's also great to know kind of where they're coming from, and really give them space to share. You can connect by sharing your personal story, right? You don't have to agree with what they said, but you can share kind of on an emotional level, something that's moved you, that maybe resonates with what they've shared. The campaign's on people really respond to hope and positivity, right? They don't just want to know why Trump is bad. They want to know why Kamala is good and the impact she will have in their lives. We've heard a little bit about that today. So share why she gives you hope, and frame this as a clear choice, and ask them to choose. You don't get what you don't ask for. So ask them to vote for Kamala Harris. Ask them to make a plan to turn in their ballot. Ask them to volunteer. Make that ask, make it a clear choice, and give them the opportunity to actively make that choice.
All right, so let's go make some calls. Hopefully everyone feels prepared after our little spiel. If you run into any tech issues, again, I will be on WhatsApp, so you're welcome to send me a message there in the chat, or just DM me. I'm also going to be dropping a link in the chat to a Google Meet. I'll be in there if you need to talk something through face-to-face. Sometimes these tech issues just are complicated and it's easier to talk it out. So anything you need, I will be there to hopefully help you out. And thank you all again. This work is so important. Let's go make some calls.
Cool. We are ready to go. Let's win this thing. If you're feeling pumped up and ready, and honestly, it is very intuitive and fun. Jump right in and you can start making calls. If you need a little bit more hype, I got a sizzle right now with some advice and words of wisdom and encouragement from our electeds. And then this feed's gonna go quiet for a little bit, and we'll come back at 50 past the hour, and I'll throw that up at screen right now. So thank you so much, Sophie, for joining us, training us. And Sophie will be in the WhatsApp group for all of your tech supports and conversational needs. Here is some words of encouragement, and then we'll hit the phones for our first phone banking sprint.
First, I want to thank everybody for doing this, because you all are going to be key to the victory on November 5th. I'm telling you, this is a grind. She's still the underdog. Understand that. And so your work and what you're doing, believe it, take it from me. I worked in every campaign since Shirley Chisholm in 1972. So I know the work of phone bankers and grassroots organizing. And so please continue to do this, and know that I'm on the National Advisory Board for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and they're very grateful for all of this work.
Just be friendly and getting conversations, identify with people. I've done, hundreds of hours of phone banking, door to door, texting, and it's just establishing that human relationships where they're at, right? Like, are they thinking of voting? What's their plan to vote? If they're not sure if they're going to vote, like, what do they care about? If they're one of these, unicorn, like, undecided people that you somehow find, how are they undecided? I don't know. But we don't want to, you don't want to doubt that. That's just where they are. How do you engage with them around your excitement for Kamala Harris and what she'd bring?
I've done a ton of phone banking in my life. First of all, you're going to get a lot of people not answering. You get a lot of people who don't want to talk. That's part of it. Listen, let people tell you how they feel, and try to meet them where they are and tell them why you feel the way you do. And if you get one or two people to pledge to vote, or one or two people to consider your argument, that's a success, because we win this thing in volume, right? And thank you for getting on this call. All praise to the leader, Ezra Klein, and let's win this thing.
And so when you pick up the phone, you're making a difference, both in this election and in someone's life. You're reaching people who care about their communities, their families, and their futures. And every call you log is a step toward ensuring that we elect a leader who will fight for affordable housing and make real progress on housing equity.
Get that extra vote for Kamala Harris. Hopefully you're calling into the swing states and talking to folks where they're at. Remember, they've been deluged in the swing states with tons of ads. I mean, again, try to show you're a person and make that connection. And sort of talk about that bright future and the opportunity that Kamala Harris brings. And let's get out there and win this.
So thank you all very much. You're doing the work that needs to be done to make sure that our freedoms aren't taken away by Donald Trump. I mean, I hate to even raise this right now, but he's on a roll. He wants to destroy this country. And set up a dictatorship. We know that, you know that. He's taken away our freedoms already, the reproductive freedom, our voting rights they're trying to dismantle, our right to organize they're trying to dismantle, all of our rights. This is about your freedoms. This is about your rights, in addition to housing. So just know this, the big picture is what you're doing. Phone banking is protecting our freedoms and protecting our democracy. And I just want to thank you all so much for that.
Look, what happens next is up to us. It's not up to Nate Silver. It's not up to like the next Quinnipiac poll. It's not even up to the candidates. It's up to us. And so to the extent that you're feeling anxiety, channel it all into the vote getting. There's an old story of the Iowa caucuses. And it was the year Obama won. And the campaign manager, I can't find the clip, but it's an old HBO thing. And the campaign manager's name is Paul Tooze. He's like in the room, and in the background you can see all the pod save dudes before they were famous and whatever. And he goes, campaign managers knocking doors, finance knocking doors, comms knocking doors. The candidate is knocking doors. I want this place empty. We are knocking doors. And so the reason I want you to understand that attitude is there is no more strategy to be developed. There is no more money to be raised. There is only communicating with voters. So to the extent that you're worried about this outcome or excited about this outcome, you are doing the main thing that can be done right now, which is communicating with voters, turning out our people, and making the case. So I just want to thank you. Please get after it.
This is our time, and this is your moment. So let's put it all out there, and let's go win.
All right, folks, I think we're ready to go. I'm going to throw links up on the screen. I'm going to throw a slide up. We're going to go quiet here, so you don't have to worry about noise. We'll see you again at 50 minutes past the hour, just for a quick interlude, a little breather, hear about your experience, share some thoughts and a few other clips, and then we'll get back to it for our final sprint of the night. So thanks so much for being with us, and let's go hit the phones. Hey, folks, we're going to pop back here for just a couple minutes, give you a little bit of a social breather, a chance to share your experience a little bit. If you want to drop that into the WhatsApp chat, we will read it, and you'll have a chance to maybe win some cool stickers from the Center for New Liberalism. Jeremiah, I don't know if you have those handy and want to show them off for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are hoping that people will share in the WhatsApp chat, in the YouTube comments, anywhere you want to, just what your experience was when you were phone banking. And anybody whose story gets shared, we have a bunch of stickers. I'm going to hold up a couple of them. We've got some Build Housing stickers, the classic. If you're a Pete Buttigieg fan, we've got the very simple, just build with Pete's face on it. What else have we got? We've got some density stickers. We all know density is pro housing, pro environment, pro community. We've got some other, YIMBYism, but for energy, build green energy. So we've got a whole bunch of stickers, and anybody who shares their story, and we might read it out here on stream, will be getting some stickers.
Thanks, Jeremiah. We have a new special guest with us, actually two, it looks like. But before we get that, I just want to share a couple of your stories. First of all, Megan mentioned in the WhatsApp chat that she got someone to commit to vote for Kamala in Arizona. So congratulations, Megan, and great work. Hayden mentioned he was able to get 4 people's ballots fixed that needed help with their ballots. Hayden also in the WhatsApp chat shared a really gorgeous story about talking to a woman last week who went to vote with her entire family, including her father, who was so excited to vote for Kamala, and then the very next day passed away. And that woman told Hayden that Kamala has to win for her father. So a lot of beautiful stories. It's fun, right? It's weird, but it's very fun to talk to strangers and hear their stories and share that passion with them. I know I was able to get a few folks to commit to texting their friends. So just great work, everyone at home. And I wanna welcome now to our panel, Sonia Traus. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm evidently coming to you live from some weird alleyway. Pretty typical, pretty urbanist. Thank you so much for doing this important work. I mean, I've been getting texts from all kinds of campaigns, and I'm really looking forward on Election Day. That's my favorite time to volunteer. There's a local candidate that I support, and it's so much energy, like getting towards the end.
Now, Sonia, in the mythology I know, you are arguably, or perhaps inarguably, maybe the founder of the YIMBY movement in America. I don't know if that's something you attach with yourself, but I would love to know just from, I guess, a little bit for folks who are new to the movement, kind of what those early days looked like, how you got started, how this picked up and got going, and what it's like now to see these same ideas coming out of the mouths of both the Democratic nominee Kamala Harris and the vice presidential nominee Tim Walz and the former President Barack Obama. So I would be curious on your perspective on this journey.
Well, it's a big relief, right? I mean, certainly many people work for much longer and don't see, it takes a long time sometimes for something to get to the mainstream. And I definitely feel like, I do think that what, we started to do 10 years ago was new, but we were definitely standing on the shoulders, of giants. There have been people working on, better housing, more access to high opportunity areas for decades. I mean, really like 100 years or more. So, but the thing that we started doing in San Francisco, or that I started doing, really, it is true. But the people that I organized were doing it too, was that we were speaking up for housing, and we were crossing neighborhood boundaries and municipal boundaries to do it. That was really new. I was telling people, because I was living in West Oakland, and the housing shortage was really coming from San Francisco. That's what happens. Like, gentrification starts in like the richer neighborhood next door. And we really wanted to get to the source, not fight about like once rents were already rising here in Oakland. I didn't want to wait until a lot of people were getting evicted and, we were getting new buildings here that were going to cause controversy. Like, at the time I started organizing, there wasn't really any building in West Oakland, But what was clearly happening was that people who wanted to live in San Francisco like couldn't afford it. They were moving to West Oakland because it was close by. And I was like, I can't compete with you guys, you know? So I was, you know, we went to San Francisco and we were like, stop exporting your housing problem. And frankly, like it's gotten, I mean, there are people in Texas and people in Oregon. You know, you guys are familiar. You guys are saying like Californians, stop coming here. I mean, it's not just San Francisco, Oakland, it's all of California, like all over the country, people are leaving. And that's been true for a long time because housing prices in California on the coast have always been so high. So, you know, I didn't know it was going to turn out. A lot of people were just really frustrated. I felt like, you know, we were all frustrated. We were complaining to each other. And I was like, guys, we can complain to each other. It's not going to do anything, but we could go to the Planning Commission on a Thursday afternoon. We can make the same good speeches in front of decision makers. And who knows? You know, who knows what'll happen? So I really encourage people, you know, whether it's a housing dream, urbanist, some other social organizing, like not doing it is definitely not going to work, you know, but doing it, you never know what might happen.
Hey, amazing things happen when you show up, which is what folks are doing tonight, right? What you're doing by making these calls. I want to share another story. This one's from Polisa. I hope I'm saying that right. Polisa on WhatsApp shares she spoke to a woman who wanted to vote for Kamala, but did not know where to vote or even know that she could vote early. So in stepped Polisa to help her find her polling place. And now she's got a plan to vote tomorrow when she gets off work. So great work, Polisa. And thank you for sharing that story. I want to play just one or two more clips and let you get back to it.
Steve, before you go, I think the people want to know, what is Sonia's baby's name?
I know, so cute. Sure. I named her Clotilde Roxana. Clotilde is a family name, and Roxana I named her after the Daniel Defoe novel from the 60s. It's a really good one.
Oh. Got to build housing for families.
Got to build housing for families. That's a good segue because I when we chatted with Governor Jared Polis, I'm always very curious. You know, you encounter opposition all the time, and even people, especially people within the party, who are concerned either about gentrification or lower home values, the impact on their family. And I asked him about how he addresses some of these concerns, and I thought the answers were really interesting.
Yeah. So first of all, like having an accessory dwelling unit on your property and renting it out is great for the current owner. Doesn't in any way detract from the neighbor's property values. In fact, it can increase it. And here's why: because everybody who might be a buyer there knows that they can create a new income stream by creating a accessory dwelling unit as a rental. And so that can create additional value in property. Just even if you choose not to build it, the fact that you can build it and that your buyer knows that you can build it can increase value. So that's exciting. We also know that duplexes, quadplexes, demonstrated time and time again, do not have any negative impact. And in fact, by activating a neighborhood and making it safer with more people, you can actually increase the value again of existing homeowners. So I certainly hear those concerns from time to time, but the data does not bear them out.
Amazing things happen when you talk and share the things you care about. Speaking of, I want to shout out John Wong on the WhatsApp group for sharing a great photo of his work canvassing in Phoenix today, talking to some of the same folks we're calling tonight. Before we get back to it, just curious from the point of view of the panel, if anybody wants to share any words, advice, encouragement, or sort of personal phone banking stories with the folks at home before we hit our final sprint of the night.
I would just say don't give up. You know, you never know. You're going to talk to a lot of people. Some folks may not be interested in what you have to say, and that's okay. But you never know when you're going to talk to that one person who will, because you spoke to them, literally pick up their keys, walk out the door, and go do what they have to do to make sure that their vote counts. So, yeah.
And every time you think that, you're like, oh, one vote won't matter, it's not important. Think about recently in California, there was an election for Congress for the primary for the top two, and there was literally a actual tie. So like that one person that you call where you're like, I don't know, maybe I should pack it in, like I'm feeling tired and lazy. You make that call, you talk to that person, they vote, and that can make the difference.
Yeah. And I think like also like phone banking, I think has a great grounding effect. I think we live in this time of like so much confusion, algorithmic timelines, weird polls, and like prediction markets that say all these other things. And I think just going to the ground and going to the people is like a way to really just get back to reality and just like tune out all the chaos and just bring it to just the people.
I also just think it's healthy. A lot of us, and I say this with love, we are hyper online political sickos, right? We pay attention to this stuff all the time. We know way too much detail about policy. We pay attention all the time. And I actually think it's healthy and normal to just talk to people who, they care, but they're just out there leading their lives. What do they want? They want, grocery prices to be cheap. They want a good life for their kids. They want a safe community. They want a fun place to live. They just want to be normal people out there. And it's good to connect with them and give the message that we think we can help them do that Democrats can help them do that, but in a way that's not as, hyper online as we always are. It's healthy to just touch grass, as they say.
Yeah, to add to that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all you.
I was going to add to that and say that I think that just being kind to people, even when they disagree with you, can help break some of that polarization. So even if you talk to somebody who isn't really convincible, you're not going to convince them right then and there. I think just being one data point to show them that, people who support Harris or who are Democrats do care, and that we're practical people that just want to talk to you about the issues. I think that can go a long way.
Thank you. Ray and Sonia, before I throw it back to the phone banks, anything you want to throw in here?
Yeah. I think we're all here to help phone bank for a specific candidate on a specific issue, but I really think it's important that when people go to the ballot box or they fill out a ballot at home, what you realize is there's a lot of stuff going on down ballot in your community, right, or in your neighborhood, even depending on the way your ballot is set up. And it's just such an incredible way to for people to get engaged with local issues and really think about what the consequences of the choices they make are and how they might play out for the next 2-4 years.
I love phone banking for a lot of the reasons people said here, that you connect to strangers. I love talking to strangers. So if you're like me, resist the temptation to spend too much time on the phone with anybody, and sometimes if you're vibing, you want to stay on the phone, but get off so you can get to the next call. And the other thing is that if they're mean to you, don't take it personally. There's no way it's about you. You just met them 2 seconds ago. They have chronic back pain, just got in an argument with their spouse. Like, it's not about you. Do not take it personally. But when it goes great, it is about you. So it's all upside when you're making these calls.
A lot of wisdom here. And I think
I know you're about to jump. I know you're about to jump, Stephen, but I just wanted to share. I'm looking at the YouTube comments, and we also had one story from there. I think LT Nois said, they were knocking doors in Virginia's 7th district as part of the Center for New Liberalism's efforts. And they met an old couple who said they had not voted since they voted for Obama. It had been, I guess that's better part of a decade now. And they convinced them to vote for the first time since Obama. Wow. So just more stories out there knocking on doors, making calls.
I think this is amazing stuff, and especially about genuinely the social fabric of America, right? I mean, we have a loneliness crisis. We have a world where it seems like both people, partisans on both sides, live in completely separate universes with no intermingling. And I think there's something really like enriching and powerful about talking to folks, hearing other voices, and then, by virtue of you being here, you are in the 1% of politically informed people, and you have real knowledge and real passion to give. And I want to thank you for giving that tonight. We're going to turn it back to the calls. We'll go 45 minutes. We'll go hard. We'll leave it all out on the field, and then we'll come back at 50 past again to bring this home and just decompress and kick back with you, maybe take a few questions. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll throw the info up on the screen again. Let's hit the phones and win this thing.
See you soon.
Hey folks, welcome back. I'm going to add our panel back here to the stage, but I just want to first start with a word of just deep gratitude and appreciation for the work that you've done tonight, for everybody on the East Coast that stayed up late with us, and for everyone on the West Coast who left work a little early and made the time to be here with us today, and maybe took off dinner and instead made phone calls. I'm just so grateful for everything that you've done today and for all your work. And we know the campaign is as well. Do remember to share your stories and your experiences in the comments or the WhatsApp chat. Jeremiah's got some cool stickers for anyone who does. In a moment, I'm gonna just go around the panel and ask for any kind of final thoughts that are on your mind, but also would just love to hear from everybody a little bit about what you hope to see out of the next 4 years and what you think might be possible under a Kamala Harris presidency. And while you think of that, I'll just share a comment from the WhatsApp channel. This is from Shane Lee. Shane mentions that she talked to a lovely woman called Bonnie, who's in Wisconsin, but flying back tonight to Arizona to vote. Shane asked if Bonnie was already registered, and she said she'd be voting for Kamala. And Shane was able to follow up with that information on how to vote by text. And Bonnie replied, "Hey, I can't wait to see Kamala Harris be president." So thank you, Shane, for sharing that. And Shane's going to get some cool stickers from the Center for New Liberalism. Thank you, panel. So yeah, we'd love to just go around and folks can just jump in and kind of popcorn this just to hear anything that you want to share with this group before we close this out, and yeah, what you hope to see out of the nation and out of this movement in the next 4 years.
I can go. So, I mean, hopefully after Harris wins, the next conversation will be about her housing bill and what actually ends up in it. And I know that there's some congressional races that are going to be important for determining who that median vote is in Congress, in the Senate, and in the House. So, yeah, I think that there'll be a lot of really, hopefully, productive conversations about what exactly we want in the final policy. I know Harris has her plan, which is very ambitious. It comes at it from all angles, but it'll be negotiated, I'm sure. So I'm sure the YIMBY community will have a lot of differing opinions about what to prioritize. But more housing in general is always good. So I'm just excited to see what actually gets passed.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah, I can jump in. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to an administration that's focused on solutions that address more housing supply in places where people actually want to live. Not to go negative here, but I did a video on Agenda 47 a couple weeks ago, and I went through the whole like freedom cities thing where they want to build new quote unquote freedom cities on federal land, and that's going to be the solution to the housing crisis. I mean, we have to build housing in places where people actually want to be. I mean, anything else is just ridiculous to me. So I don't know. There's just no other choice. We have to get Harris-Walz over the line.
The thing I'm personally most excited about from a niche thing is that there's some work being done right now around changing the way the tax policy treats rental housing versus home ownership. And so right now, for building apartments, if you're a developer who builds apartments, you can get taxed capital gains in a different way than if you're a developer who builds for sale condos or for single family homes. And so it creates an incentive basically where you either want to create single family homes or apartment rentals. But for a lot of Americans, the dream really is to own a home. And I think YIMBYism's as frankly a lot of us get older, now we're all in our 30s and 40s, plus when we start in our 20s, we want to settle down, have a home, and we don't want that to necessarily have to mean a single family home. We want to be able to stay in the city and grow. And there's a lot of things around federal tax policy we can do to incentivize that and put it on a level playing field, which I think will be awesome. But I'm also just really excited to see where this movement goes. I think, we're going to win. We're going to work hard and we are going to win this November. But no matter what happens, this movement will continue, and there will be planning commissions from San Francisco to Maine to Florida to Alaska to Hawaii, like where there will be fights around housing. And this movement's come a long way, and it's only got more room to be up. So I'm excited for that.
I think what I'm excited most is having federal support or like federal party support around YIMBYism officially, so we can get some things, important things done in the States. Like I think for me, like I want to see congestion pricing get passed, City of Yes get passed, despite who's attached to it. I think City of Yes is still good. And I'm just excited to build like sustainable communities that people want to live in, like Ray said.
I'm going to say two words that I'm pretty excited for, and it's federal agencies. I think the legislative stuff is obviously going to be very, very important, but man, every day federal agencies are doing stuff that have the ability to change people's lives for the better or for the worse. And I think we saw that, for example, with the rule change around counting ADU income on your like mortgage application to help you qualify for a mortgage. Like that stuff is small, but it's stuff that's done by federal agencies. And I think that there will be more opportunities in a Kamala Harris administration to continue to move the ball down the field on little things like that people overlook, but that have an opportunity to unlock housing, and then have an opportunity to do it in an equitable way, right? Folks who have like a whole lot of money, they're not really concerned about whether they can count ADU income on their mortgage application. But middle income homeowners, like that stuff concerns them, and it's going to help them while also increasing the housing supply. So yeah, federal agencies.
Steve, can I share something with the group? It's something that I feel like it would be a shame not to share it. So if you'll give me 1 second.
I'm excited.
All right, so this is what I'm looking forward to. This is one of my favorite paintings. It is the ring lights in there. I call it YIMBYzilla. If you notice, it's a Godzilla made out of apartment complexes and bicycles that is blowing up the suburbs. So that's the future in a Kamala Harris administration.
No,
that's not the future. We are not blowing up.
It's not.
We are not blowing up the suburbs, but I felt like it would be a shame not to share my YIMBY illustration that I bought here on this stream. What I'm actually looking forward to is I would say YIMBYism of all kinds. We talk a lot about housing here, and it's really, really important that we build a lot more housing, but both in the suburbs, both in cities, even in rural communities. Places like Montana have housing shortages too. But I want to see YIMBYism for everything. I want to say yes to more green energy. I want to say yes to make it easier to open a small business, because Lord knows as many restrictions as there are on housing, it's equally hard in some of our cities to open a small business, to open a restaurant, to build infrastructure in this country, to build ports and bridges takes way too long. It's way too expensive. So I'm excited for us to become a nation that can build things fast, build housing and energy and all sorts of stuff. So
thank you, Jeremiah. And it's a very cool picture. It's a weird thing to say with the country on the razor's edge of fascism, maybe the end of the country, collapse of the economy, collapse of our society. It's a weird thing to say in the middle of a crazy housing crunch and shortage that has so many people in dire straits. But weirdly, if you're looking to have a few good years for this country, we're in a good position to start with, right? Stock market's doing well. Employment, prime age employment is historically high. Inflation is tamed except for housing, and we have everything we need to tackle that. If we build the amount of housing that Kamala Harris and we heard earlier about Elizabeth Warren's written and introduced bill to accomplish this, if we build the amount of housing that we can, if we let people build the amounts of housing that they want, if we benefit from those lower rents, that deflationary influence, and that unleashing of the economy, to say nothing of what Jeremiah referenced with regards to other aspects of permitting reform, especially around building energy, we've got what we need for a pretty amazing few years economically and socially under President Kamala Harris. And I think both having her to sign those bills into law and Armand referenced earlier a poll that says when people hear what housing policies Kamala Harris and Barack Obama supports and they're Democrats, they are way more likely to support those, even if maybe historically they've been more NIMBY. I think there's a real power to shape the narrative in the country and shape the economics of the country. And it's there for us if we win. And the abyss is there for us if we don't, which is why I think we're also thankful for the work you put in tonight. You have everything you need in terms of links and training to do this as much as you want the rest of the way. We will gather together again one final time the evening before the election. We can share more clips from tonight. We'll find other ways to get those full interviews to you. And maybe a few more from some pretty cool other special guests from the world of elected officials. So I'm about to close. Anybody got some parting thoughts that they want to throw to the crowd at home before we get you out of here and to bed or to dinner? It's all been said. Folks, thank you so much. Thanks for joining YIMBYs for Harris. Thanks for going on this journey with us. We'll keep the conversation up in WhatsApp. I'm going to end the stream. For Jeremiah Johnson, Omari Hardy, Daryl Fairweather, Ray Delahanty, Nelia Johnson, and Armand Domaluski.
Yes.
How do we do? Yeah, hit it. I've been Steve Boyle. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on YIMBYs for Harris.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.